Okay, I'm going to get started. My name is Marielle Palumbo, and I'm the Director of Curriculum at Listenwise. And I'm going to talk today about our instructional framework and how it can help teachers of multilingual learners implement strategies that we know are effective and that focus particularly around teaching with multimedia. So if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. We'll follow up with them at the end. I'm going to just share some information with you, show you some of what's on the platform, and then take your questions. So today we're going to talk about, as I mentioned, the instructional framework at the core of Lingolift and Listenwise lessons. And we're going to show you some examples of how that framework plays out in the design of the platform and how our lessons can flexibly support effective teaching practices before, during, and after students across ELP levels engage with instructional content. And I'm going to be talking about two products. Listenwise is our initial product, and it is a collection of podcast lessons for teaching academic language and content together. We have current events and standards aligned lessons for English language arts, social studies, and science in grades 2 to 12. And lessons include teacher's guides that address all four domains of language and literacy: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And they follow the instructional framework that I'm about to delve into with activities before, during, and after listening to podcasts. Lingolift is our newest product, and at the base of Lingolift are interactive video lessons, so also multimedia, but video, not just audio. And it focuses on serving newcomers and emergent multilingual learners. And the interactive videos follow a watch, learn, speak instructional sequence that I will share with you shortly. These interactive video lessons are organized into curated topical collections focused on survival, social, and academic language, as well as grammar. And those collections are also accompanied by teacher's guides that follow the same essential framework that addresses all four domains of language and literacy, and that offers activities before, during, and after viewing videos. So that's just a quick overview of what's on the platform. Sort of the instructional design principles that run through the design of everything on the platform include teaching content and language together. And in particular, we'll focus today a lot on how the lessons and the platform features help to scaffold instruction for easy differentiation. So it's designed for flexible use. There's not one clear path through the platform, but hopefully you'll learn a lot of tools and resources today that can help you design lessons for your students. You know your students best, you know your curriculum best. There are lots of different ways to implement the lessons that we have on the platform, and we'll show you some of that today. So at the core of Listenwise and Lingolift is a framework that supports student engagement with instructional content of any kind. It could be audio stories, podcasts, it could be video, it could be text. This framework applies to teaching with any instructional content, so it's very transferable. All these strategies are good for multilingual learners. They're also good for everyone. So it's sort of a universal design for learning approach where these sorts of practices, some of which may be familiar and some may be new, are helpful to students at any ELP level, and hopefully will become routines that you can use flexibly with lots of different kinds of content. So the backbone of the framework follows a sequence of activities before, during, and after engaging with instructional content. So that may be listening in the case of Listenwise or viewing in the case of Lingolift. Those key practices that are the backbone of of effective instruction, as supported by our platform, include building background knowledge before, providing learning supports during, and deepening learning across language domains after viewing or listening. So those are the key practices. And then within those, within the framework, the sort of branches off of that trunk include a variety of strategies that we know are proven by years of research and practice for achieving those goals. So, for example, pre-teaching vocabulary and activating prior knowledge are key strategies for building background knowledge. There are others. You can hang as many strategies as you want off of the framework. We will focus on these strategies today and show how the platform design enables teachers to apply those strategies. So the key practice during viewing is providing learning supports. And the key strategies for doing that include making content accessible and scaffolding instruction. And the key practice after viewing is deepening learning across language domains. And some of the key strategies we'll talk about in that component include discussion protocols and responsive writing. So I will take each one of those components and dig a little deeper into it, and then show you some examples of how it plays out on the platform. So before viewing, I'm going to also, let me back up one second. I'm going to focus on Lingolift because it's new and it's a lot to address all of the many components of Listenwise platform. I'll mention some of the Listenwise features as well. And in the slides that you'll get after this webinar, there are a lot of examples of how these strategies apply to the design of Listenwise lessons. So you can delve deeper into those examples after the webinar. But for the purposes of today, I'm going to focus primarily on before viewing the videos on the Lingolift platform, or during or after. So we know that building background knowledge and really preparing students to engage with these videos is important. And we have lesson plans designed to support teachers in doing this, and some features as well on the platform to help students. So I will show you some of each of those. Again, pre-teaching vocabulary involves defining keywords. We've identified keywords for each in each of the teacher's guides, and described how using pictures and translations and examples can help students comprehend those words. Activating prior knowledge is key, providing enough background to make sense of what they're going to see, helping them connect it to what they already know, and doing that in part by asking questions potentially about images, about their own experience related to the topic, etc. So this is, I'm going to jump over to the platform in a second, but this is the teacher's guide for a collection of videos about food. That's a basic survival collection, really basic language about food, designed for newcomers. And you'll see, I'll show you on the platform where you'll find some of the strategies in the teacher's guide, as well as features on the platform. So for example, you'll see the pieces of the lesson plan and what the student experience might look like. An example is that there's a worksheet that can be used for any lesson, words and meanings worksheet. And here's an example of what it might look like. You can print it, you can download it, you can complete it, you can have your students complete it. And that's a way for them to track their the words for a particular lesson. So I'm going to jump over to the platform now for a minute. This is the collection, the food collection that I mentioned. This is, as I said, a survival collection. This is the design of the platform. Each collection has about 4 to 6 videos. You can assign the whole collection. You could assign individual videos. Each collection has a teacher's guide, and on each of the lessons that are in that collection, you'll see that teacher's guide. So here is the first video in this collection, Common Foods. And one of the activating prior knowledge strategies might be to show this video to the image to students and ask them what they see there, what they think this video might be about, those kinds of questions. And there are strategies. So each tab here, you'll see before, during, and after viewing, includes the strategies that I've just shared. And these are strategies that apply to every lesson plan, every teacher's guide, and any other video that you might use. So these are just good ways to use these instructional materials effectively in building background knowledge. So here's some tips for pre-teaching vocabulary and for activating prior knowledge. And then there are lesson details that are particular to this collection. So we've pulled out the vocabulary words, offered some introductory language to introduce the collection, the videos, some questions to ask to activate background knowledge. What do you like to eat in this case? And those can be plugged into these strategies. And once you've done these strategies a bunch of times, you may not need to refer to them anymore. You may just be able to look at the lesson details. So that is, and then here is the words and meanings worksheet, for example. And you can, again, download that, fill it out, have students fill it out, etc. So those are some ways that we support building background knowledge. You can always customize. You can add your own words. You can focus on just a few words. You can change this question if it's not the right one for your class. These are all materials that are customizable to your own needs. I'm going to jump back to my slides for a minute and talk about during viewing. And there'll be, again, more examples in the slides that you can look at later. So during viewing, the key is providing learning supports, and two major strategies for that include making content accessible, and that can be through language supports, through a video itself is a tool for making content accessible, having visuals, etc. And then scaffolding instruction, so really breaking down the lesson. In this case, offering several different viewings of the same video with a different focus each time. First, you watch and can look up the meanings of words that you don't know or that you'd like to review. Then there's another round called that's referred to as learn the words, and you get to practice spelling of some of the words in that video from the oral speech, from dictation. And then there's a third round in which you speak the lines and get to practice pronunciation. And I'll show you what that looks like on the platform in a minute. So some things to watch out for. Again, here's the teacher's guide during viewing tab. As I mentioned, you can look up words both within the transcript, the captions, the subtitles, English subtitles, and then you can look up words using the text help toolbar, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. And then this is what the learn phase looks like, where you get to type in words that you hear, and then you get to speak them. You record your voice, students record their voices, and then can hear it played back. And they can try this. This structure offers opportunities for them to practice as many times as they need to have success. So I'm going to go back to the platform and show you what that looks like here. So we're going to go to the during viewing tab. And you'll see, again, the same format where you have these pop-up or foldable strategy tips and then lesson details. The bulk of the supports for the during viewing phase on the Lingolift platform are embedded in the videos themselves. So I'm going to play for a moment a little bit of this video so you can see what that looks like.
Let's learn about food. The bread is warm.
So I can click on a word and it is pronounced, defined, and you can break it down into phonemes as well. So that's one type of scaffolding. Of course, the video itself includes important support for making content accessible. And the transcript itself is also a tool for making content accessible. Students can read as they hear and view, and doing all those things at once can help with comprehension. And we'll go to the next scaffolded step. We can learn, you can choose words that you want to practice spelling. We're going to go ahead with these 5.
The mouse likes cheese. The rice is ready.
Rice is ready. Oops. I'm going to go fix that. Shows me the right answer. I'm going to try again. And then I'm going to continue.
The pasta is cooked.
And you can again repeat it until you get it right. The speak the lines segment is similar in structure. You get to choose which lines you want to practice.
The bread is warm.
And then you just speak. The bread is warm. And you get feedback. And on the teacher end,
the mouse likes cheese.
Sorry. The teacher data shows you exactly, you can listen to what the students have said. They can try it as many times as they need to and compare their own pronunciation to the audio in the video. And you can see feedback on the pronunciation in the teacher dashboard. I'm not going to go into that today, but that's another tool to make use of. So in terms of the instruction itself, breaking down, watching the video multiple times is really helpful as far as scaffolding, learning the words through all these modalities and all these domains. Yeah, so that is the during. I'm going to go back to my slides again and talk about after viewing. So the key practice here, again, is deepening learning across language domains. So we've designed the experience to include the before listening, the during listening that might happen lots of different ways. So it may be that if you have a group of newcomers, you might say Monday, do a whole class lesson or whole group lesson with before listening activities and maybe one video together. Then you could assign the videos during the week. And then you might on Friday have an after viewing group lesson again, where students are invited to apply the language that they learned to their own authentic, expressive language, speech and writing. So we offer some discussion protocols like think, pair, share, and turn and talk to help get kids talking using that language in their own natural speech around the topic, and then writing the same with we've offered some examples of questions, prompts that might be asked, and some sentence stems to help scaffold again. And then, of course, you can always adapt those. I'll show you a little bit more about what that looks like in the platform, but in this lesson details section, you'll have, again, some very specific questions that, educators have written to go with the videos. and prompts to then apply. So the comprehension questions are about what they saw in the videos, and then the prompts and sentence stems invite students to then make their own sense of that language in just conversing with their partners about their own lives. So there's also a worksheet that comes with the on the after tab that you can use to, it can work both ways. It can work for setting students up for that pair conversation. So you might either fill this out ahead of time or invite students to write the questions and the prompts. And then they can talk with a partner about their answers, sort of, play around with language until they sort of arrive at an answer that they are ready to write. And then they can write it on the same worksheet. So again, backing up. There's lots of different ways to use those resources, and we've provided a number of tools that we think could be useful in lots of different ways. So in the after viewing section, you'll see here's the writing prompt worksheet. And again, that can be downloaded, adapted online, printed, and ask students to fill it in any way you want to use it. And then again, we have the strategy tips for discussion protocols and responsive writing. And then the lesson details that I was just showing you, where we've offered some ideas for questions you can ask and sentence stems to help students get started in answering them. Yeah. So now I'm going to share a little bit about how you might sew Lingolift lessons together with Listenwise lessons to meet different needs. So those different needs might be within the same group. We know there are lots of different instructional contexts out there that these resources are designed to serve. So you might, if you have newcomers in a group with students who have higher English language proficiencies, potentially in a gen ed classroom or in a mixed ELP designated language learning classroom, you might assign collections to newcomers that are and build on one another. So there's the very basic survival collections, and then broaden to conversational language and then academic language on a related topic. I'll show you a couple of examples in a minute how that might work. You might use ELD lessons on the Listenwise platform, which are podcast-based lessons, but they have video to help with building background knowledge. They have a lot more scaffolding, a lot more supports, more language supports, and the lessons are broken down. There's multiple close listens and a different task and a different listening organizer to use for each one. And then there's paired gen ed lessons, or they could be used with more advanced, high intermediate and advanced English language learners as well, that use the same audio story, but have a little bit less scaffolding and, offer the opportunity to challenge students who are ready for, taking off some of those scaffolds. You might use Lingolift collections that build on each other. So again, you have some survival collections. You might assign those to students and then assign them a next higher level conversational collection and then an academic collection, and then teach that same group the ELD version of a related topical lesson on Listenwise with a podcast. You may assign students who aren't ready for that just the basic survival language collections, and at least they're in the conversation and learning some of the vocabulary that's going on in the academic classroom. You can assign different versions, the ELD version of a lesson and the gen ed version of a lesson, to different sets of students, groups of students. You could work with individuals, with small groups, with whole classes. There's lots of ways to use what's here. So here are a couple of examples of different levels of collections on Lingolift, and then So the nature collection is pretty basic. The environment collection gets a little bit more academic. And then on the Listenwise platform, we have collections of stories related to the environment, one for elementary, one for middle, one for high, that are highly curated collections of stories that kind of hang together around a theme or a topic. There's also the potential to use individual stories as you choose. So there's, again, a lot of ways to make use of what's there, holding on to this instructional framework of building background knowledge, providing learning supports, and then deepening learning across language domains after viewing or listening. Here's a couple of examples of kind of articulated resources. So that food collection I was showing you is a survival collection. Then there's a slightly, once you've gotten the basic words for meals and basic food groups, there's a cooking collection. And then there's a culture collection focused on videos about food as an aspect of culture that sort of take it up a level to more academic language. And those would go well together. Could be for individual groups of students so that they're in parallel doing something related. It could be that you build on one upon another with the same group of students. Again, it really depends on your context, the time you have, et cetera. And then this appreciating differences in a place at the table is a story, a book club for kids story. It's about a novel called A Place at the Table that talks about food and culture in a very rich way. This would be more of a complex text that is designed for a wide audience, and the supports in the ELD version are much heavier than the supports in the Gen Ed version. But it could be that groups of kids with different ELP levels could access the very same story with different supports. And this is another story that is on the same theme of sort of culture and food, but at an even higher level. Similarly, here's another sort of pathway. The seasons collection is very basic. Then there's a nature collection, there's an environment collection, and there's a climate change collection in the academic wing of Lingolift, where the language is a little bit higher level. The previous collections would help to prepare students for that one. And then a rich story about forests as ecosystems on the Listenwise platform, an ELD version and a Gen Ed version, and then lots and lots of stories in Listenwise on related topics about the environment that other students who have higher ELP levels could use. So in summary, happy to answer questions as well, but everything on the platform. Oh, actually, before I do that, sorry, I'm going to go back to show you a few other tools and resources on the platform. I meant to do that related to Listenwise. So just so you can get a sense, if you're not familiar, you may be. But this is the text help toolbar. That this is an example of the ELD version of the Appreciating Differences lesson. You'll see, it's highly structured. Uh-oh, I don't want to play. Okay. And all of these stories have an interactive transcript. That's a really key tool for making content accessible. Hearing while you read is a really great strategy for learning the correspondence between printed and oral language. You can stop and start the transcript anytime. That's true of the videos on Lingolift as well. And then you can, using this toolbar, you can highlight a word, look it up in the dictionary, translate it into one of, I think, 17 languages. That one's a cognate, so that's pretty straightforward. There's a picture dictionary. There's a read aloud tool. Obviously, the transcript gets read through the podcast itself, but any other text on the platform could be read aloud if students need that. So there's lots of on-demand supports. And this textile toolbar appears on every single story on the entire platform, including the 30-second weird news stories. Here's an example of one of those. So you could see, we also have on Listenwise, you can slow the audio. So
sometimes even show aggression, but a little
that can be helpful
sympathy
for
the
language
youngsters,
learners.
Please research.
The fact that you can stop it and use this interactive transcript to replay.
They take risks. They take risks. They take risks.
As many times as you need to is super helpful. Then of course you can look up vocabulary words or translate them. Oh, there's another cognate. Whoops. Let's see. There, that's not a cognate. So these tools are available on all lessons and help to make even this sort of rich, authentic, natural language content more accessible to English learners as well. So that is my quickie demo. There's lots more examples of how Listenwise sort of operationalizes those practices and strategies as well, but we'll leave that for another day. And today I'm going to just summarize real quick. So this instructional framework flows through all of the instructional resources on the platform, both Lingolift and Listenwise, which helps to make for easy use of combining the resources on both platforms, the podcast and the video lessons. And they all offer support for building background knowledge, for providing learning supports, and for deepening learning across language domains. And I showed you a bunch of the tools on the platform that students can use sort of, again, on demand to meet their own needs and to practice skills, excuse me, at their own pace across all language domains. And feel free to let us know if you have any additional questions or interests.